Hi and welcome to another one of our videos, and today we're going to be looking at several ways you can use resistance bands to really challenge bodyweight movements like squats and lunges and even single leg things and make them significantly hard, in some ways arguably harder than adding load. Alright, so the first one I'm going to look at is a bit of an integrated one, a bit more of an upper body exercise, one that's a bit hard to do with body weight to make it hard. And if normally we'd be adding dumbbells and stuff to do shoulder press or even barbells and stuff. This one is where I'm showing you can use like a resistance band, and it takes a bit of mucking around to get yourself set up, so make sure you get a good grip on it and get in the right position. And you can see here I'm just adjusting it to get my foot under it correctly, otherwise it might flick up at me. So the setup is important with all these things. So basically all I do here is just doing a basic shoulder press. So you can see here I'm going with a double action pushing overhead. I could add a squat into the movement if I wanted to, and I may do that if I went with a heavier band. So you can see here I'm going to add the squat to it. So this is like a sort of a light to medium band. You can see on the ground there I've got a couple of different ones, and I'm going to use all of these ones within this video. So I could do a two-arm one. If I wanted to make it a lot harder, I could use that same band, just do single arm. And you can already see from my exertion here how that's a lot harder. So that same band I was using for two arms is now only one, and still got the same resistance on it. Again, I could add the squat into it, so I'll go on side on here so you can get an idea of how much load this would apply. Best thing with resistance bands is they don't take up a lot of room and they don't cost a lot of money. So very, very versatile things for when you're working in the home. All right, so the next one I'm going to work on is a single leg deadlift. So again, quite a hard exercise just as body weight, but if you don't have dumbbells and that, how do you make it harder? And this is one way where you can add the resistance band. You can see here I've got double strength resistance band, and see how it's pulling back on me, and it's really pulling me into the ground. This is where arguably they're harder than dumbbells because they really pull you into the ground quite hard. Like really fast, so the down phase of the movement is actually really difficult because it's trying to speed you up, where the dumbbells are sort of a consistent speed all the way. Same with barbells and kettlebells. You can see here I'll show you from side on, and get an idea of. And again, if I used a thicker band, the resistance is a lot greater. And I've got like that gripping sensation that I would have with a barbell that you'd often get. Now, if I found that was too easy, I could just wrap my hand around that resistance band a bit more, and you'll get an idea of just how much more difficult this is now. It really wants to rip me into the floor, and it's you have to experience it yourself to see what it does to you. It really sort of moves you around side to side really quickly because it's just trying to pull you. It's hard to explain without you feeling it, but you can sort of see there how it's pulling me side to side, but it's deceptively hard. Great way to sort of add resistance to your single leg movement. All right, so that's the second one. So so we sort of had two shoulder press ones, and then this single leg one. Then the next one we're going to do is a lunge. All right, so I'm using the real thick band on this one. Again, there's thicker bands again, just for the sake of the video. I haven't used them all. Actually, I did use them all before I filmed this, and I'm actually a little bit stuffed by the time I got to doing it. But anyway, that's for another day. But this one, you just put the band around your front foot and the other end of it around the opposite shoulder. So then it's basically pulling you into the ground, and you can use your lunges. And I just do this as a step back lunge. Again, if I really wanted to go hard at it, I could maybe add another band if I didn't feel it was enough, or a thicker one, or a thick one and a small. I just keep adding bands if I've got more. Usually I would recommend buying quite a few, and they don't cost that much. You could buy a set of these bands that I've got here for like less than $50 altogether. So you can get some good value on those. So that's the lunge that you could, and obviously you could mix it around to the other leg. It really does change things up a lot. Now this next one's a bit of a complicated one, all right? So I'm just sort of setting things up here, but this is where you're going to need two bands, and this is where we add resistance to the squat. Now, I mentioned a minute ago earlier I was doing I was experimenting with all the different tensions on these bands, and I must, by this point, I've probably done about 50 or 60 squats of different resistance. I'm sort of getting quite tired here. Anyway, you need two bands, and the setup is important. You've got to do it at the bottom. You can't do this standing up, so you have to start in the bottom part of the squat and get the bands over your shoulders. I've probably got them a little bit too close to my neck here on this. It's probably where I was getting a bit tired, but basically you just set them up out into that position so it's sort of diagonal across you. And again, it's it really, depending on what type of resistance on the band you've got, really does change things quite a lot. So that simple body weight squat that maybe you feel like you have to do 100 to get a lot out of it, you don't need 100 of these anymore if you've got like pretty tight bands. All right, so it's a great way to mix up the squat using resistance bands that give you the feeling of the load of a dumbbell. All right, and these from Side On, just to give you the idea. And there's many places online you can get these, and they're actually selling out, I think, in a lot of places, to be honest. So, there's some good ideas. You can use the resistance bands. A lot of people underestimate these exercises, but they're very good fun, and they're very challenging by doing this. All right, so that's how you use bands in your home workout.